Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to dive into a headset report breaking down sales by state. On the line with us is Dan Chemist, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
I'm in a state of confusion this morning, Chronic. I'm so looking forward to this.
Well, this should help clear some stuff up as we have sales trends report from Headset, breaking down cannabis purchasing trends state by state. So this report came out last month and goes on to say that what are people buying in the dispensary? So they looked at a point of sale data from 4 states where recreational cannabis is legal in order to compare each data set. So, quote, this data was taken from participating customers who voluntarily signed up for loyalty and rewards cards. The 4 states including in the study are California, Colorado, Nevada, and Washington. So what's in the basket? As always, the top basket item for cannabis consumers is flower. However, flower isn't holding as strong in California, where vape pens are now 32% of sales. There are several reasons vaping could be gaining an old-fashioned smoking in California. One reason could be the urge to stay away from anything that could harshly impact your lungs. Another reason is discretion. The lack of weed smell makes it easier to partake in shared spaces. Whatever the reason, vape pens could be overtaking flower in California in the near future. So below is a breakdown of the purchasing of smokable cannabis products by dispensary customers over the past few months, which was in August before this whole vape debacle. So these sales have come down anywhere from 15 to 30%. So the whole vape crisis is not being reflected in this report, but it is interesting to see that the sales of percentage is highest in flower, around on average, I'd say maybe 42.0%.
You know, here we go, right? Let's speak to a rapidly moving market. Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's 2 months ago and you're one of those little vape companies and you're selling stuff lickety split and your supply chain's growing and all of that stuff, right? And then this whole thing happens, right? And this, again, one of the things that, I mean, it's not I enjoy the rapid learning. I don't enjoy seeing these kinds of market turns, but it just shows, right? That's a month-old article. And a significant component of the data is essentially been adulterated at this point. Crazy.
Right. We don't know kind of what's going to happen with the vape debacle, but on Friday, just a couple of days ago, there was an issue by the governor declaring almost a state of emergency, but it was essentially just banning all flavored vape pens. So it was an executive order effective immediately and is going to affect probably 70-80% of the entire market. The margins are really high on vape pens. The popularity is there, the discretion, all of those things. And so a lot of companies have diversified into this extraction process, spending money on the equipment and everything else. And so now that they can't have, quote, flavored vape pens, what does that even mean? Is it terpenes? Is it, additives? They don't even know what they're able to do. So it's definitely going to affect a lot of people. Sales are going to be crushing some companies that just can't survive and haven't diversified. So it's going to be huge.
Again, living in the wild, wild west, right? I mean, just again, and that's, just when you look at Washington and California and Nevada, right? And then they also talk Colorado there in the report?
Yes.
Yeah, again, so first, full disclosure, we're probably part of that report. We've bought a lot of weed. Okay. Second, if I were a vendor, right, if I were doing business right now, again, I don't know what I would do with regards to that, the state of the moment with regards to vape pen stuff, because it does. Literally every day it continues to evolve. We're in the middle of the crisis. We're a long way from it being over.
We saw a couple of years ago in Oregon when, motels in Florida were exploding due to BHO, the butane hash oil, where people were, making butane hash oil and then smoking a cigarette, not thinking, and then the whole building explodes. So Oregon actually banned all extracts that had solvent. So rosin was the only thing to survive. People that made rosin thrived while the entire market collapsed. And I think there's going to be something similar to this, where if you aren't making something outside of the vape pen, you're going to see a massive contraction and a lack of trust, and just ultimately a diminish of sales.
Yeah, turbulent marketplace. And again, one of the things that I find really interesting is how, let's face it, Headset's nimble. Headset is collecting a lot of data and working very rapidly. And at the same time, again, in any turbulent space where there's a lot of changes, things can be made dated pretty rapidly.
Some of the trends as this report goes on with edibles, it's a category that they say has vastly different trends between states. One thing that I've noticed is there's no coffee in Washington, and you go to Oregon and it's always sold out down the entire I-5 corridor. Twist and go ready-made coffee is available. Don't talk to me about K-cups. That's not coffee. All right. We have that in Washington. That's not real stuff. I'm talking about ready to go coffee. So a lot of different trends. This article goes in to say, quote, edibles are one category that has vastly different trends between states. Some of this is due to regulation differences. Seattle was moving to ban the sales of edibles since they're seen as appealing to children. Ultimately, the cannabis laws were amended to exclude certain colors and flavors that could be mistaken as candy. Gummies are cute, easy to eat, and don't melt. They're also the most popular edible in nearly every state except for Washington. Following close behind is chocolate, which is more traditional form for edible cannabis products. Hard candies and gum appear to be the least favorite form of edible in California, but they don't fare as badly in other states. Most consumers are not interested in edibles that take a while to consume. Chewy candies, such as caramels, also have a very low market share everywhere but Washington.
It's like microclimates. It's kind of freaky, right? Because again, I think it really comes down to the quality of the edible and then distribution chain, right? Or distribution channel, right? Because just because you make a good edible, if you're early in the game, even getting it into the market and getting it distributed broadly. So, I mean, or you're literally looking at, gosh, somebody in Sausalito likes something different than somebody in Spokane. I don't know if it works like that, Chronic.
It's easier with beverages to kind of infer what people want. Food is a little bit different. I mean, gummies are clearly the most popular where they're legal, and Washington is not legal. And so what you're seeing in this graph is a CBD gummy that has 22% sales. That's what I'm assuming. I reached out to Headset yesterday. It was a Sunday. I got a response back from Liz, the director of analytics, and then Jennifer, who's a head of retail sales. And it's believed that 22% of gummies represents the CBD market because that's not legal, whereas 24% are chewies. And there's a slight difference, but it's semantics almost. It's kind of like there's a limit of 100 milligrams. And so you'll see a topical at 500 milligrams, and it's actually an edible. People will eat that butter or whatever that topical is. And it's just a matter of marketing. So ultimately gummies are super popular, but I can't infer why.
Hey, listeners at home, don't try that. Don't eat your edible or your topical. Chronic.
Yeah, it's definitely a strategy, I suppose. But so, what does it boil down to? How much does cannabis cost per state? So cannabis products that people are buying isn't the only state-to-state difference for dispensaries. Cannabis is more expensive in California and Nevada, but cheapest in Washington. One reason for the discrepancy is tax. So while Colorado has a 15% tax, Washington has a 37% tax on cannabis sales. Because of this, the retail price must be lower in order to make up a trip to the dispensary accessible to average buyers. Meanwhile, California has a 15% excise tax on recreational cannabis, which on average is about $9.25 per ounce of flower. So prices below are taken from a recent survey, which was conducted within the last 3 months, which the average price, $13 in Washington, up to $27 in California, fairly normal because California just came on board, always higher prices before they kind of come back down to reality.
Yeah, in the black market, right? This is the thing. I kind of take exception with the concept of, well, geez, because of the tax, the price of the cannabis is lower. No. Because of the number of farms and the way it's treated like a commodity and this race to the bottom and all this outdoor weed and an imbalanced market, that's why the price is so low. The tax rate in Washington is audacious, to say the least. At least that's my opinion. And I think really, again, it's burdensome on everybody. But ultimately, that isn't what made the price of the weed low. What made the price of the weed low is there's so much of it. Come on.
Yes, and the fact that there's a lack of fully integrated opportunities. It's illegal. It's not allowed, I should say. Not allowed to have a retail shop own a producer or processor. And so when you look at the differences in taxes, it's more than a double percent, 15 in Colorado, 37% in Washington, and yet the prices here are lower. In Washington, what makes the biggest difference in competitiveness is the separation between the rec shops and the producer processors. That has created a competitive marketplace, which drives the price down lower than any other place, probably in North America. We've been up to North Seattle where there's 20 stores up there, and they're sharing parking lots. The prices are more competitive than anywhere else, and it's not taxes, like you said. It's because there's no store that's selling their own product.
Well, I went over the other day, and I went from store 1 to store 2 to store 12 in the course of a couple of hours, okay, visiting, talking about stuff. And case in point, you know the guys I'm talking about that share the parking lot. I actually, just for fun, I transacted in both stores on the same products. So there you go.
Right. I'm not really sure how long those companies are going to be able to survive, because quite literally there's nothing that differentiates them. And with this whole vaping debacle, if you're not going to be able to have those same people come in and have a regular set of customers, it's going to add to the multitude of problems they're already facing, which is going to result in less sales, more competitiveness, closures, mergers, capitulation, whatever it is. It's not going to be good on the near front for Washington producer processors or retailers.
Well, so let's get back to your report. Hey, which state finds themselves selling the most like high-end pre-rolls and stuff? Do we know?
There isn't anything with regards to pre-roll brands. There is, concentrate report here that kind of shows, what types of concentrates they're buying, whether it's vape pens, which seems to be, the fastest segment. Although a close runner-up is live resin. I think there's an association with the organic feel to that. And so you are seeing live resin being sold a lot. Pre-rolls are too expensive in California and Canada, so you just aren't seeing the numbers there as much.
Labor rates and everything else coming together, right? That early deployment on the ground of what it takes to, again, maintain a supply chain if you're using a rinky-dink item like a knockbox.
Yeah, compared to Organogram up in Canada, that's rolling 40,000 pre-rolls a day. Somebody who wants blunts or joints or pre-rolls is going to need to look to the automated market, especially with that Safe Banking Act that just passed. It's going to alleviate some of the issues with automation, scaling, expanding, just regular banking. So whether you're hunting for money or just trying to find a better profile for your flavor preferences, inventory control, whatever, Headset's a pretty good place. They can tell you, on average what your basket size is. So a little while back, Washington had a $30 on average basket size, with 50% having one item. 1/5 had edibles in the baskets. And on Friday, that accounted for 30% of all of your sales for the month on Fridays between the hours of 3 and 5. So getting some granular data like that is going to help you and your business, as well as kind of impress your investors. So take a look at Headset, or just come back to the Talking Hedge. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.